Hey everybody, everything new under the sun, and thanks for following along. Two immediate concerns that I see from today. Number one is the Chernobyl. The radiation levels are now rising, and it's mainly because of the heavy equipment in the area that are increasing the dust. The dust is flying, and so radiation is kind of being bounced up into the air, and that's a problem. We know in the last days that the water will become poisoned, and I think ultimately the air will be poisoned as well, along with so many other things that are happening in the world. Ukraine Nuclear Agency says Chernobyl radiation levels rising. Experts at the agency did not provide exact radiation levels, but said the change was due to movement of heavy military equipment in the area lifting radioactive dust into the air. So again, what does this look like for the long-term health of those in Kiev? It's about 100 kilometers away from Kiev, and for everybody else in Europe. If they don't stop this soon, this could pose a risk for, again, NATO members in Europe. So this is a problem. This is a big deal. Radiation starts to increase. It is not critical for Kiev for the time being, but we are monitoring. The still radioactive site of the 1986 nuclear disaster lies some 100 kilometers from Kiev. President advisors, meanwhile, said President Zelensky was still in the capital, and basically he says, Zelensky said the Russians are coming for me, so I'm going to stay in the capital. Latest news is that the capital is surrounded basically by Russian troops at this point. So that's kind of the latest there, and you can find that news. But here is kind of the second thing where it hits home, and that means in Canada as well, and it's related to cyber attacks. Remember Cyber Polygon, the drill practicing to protect against cyber attacks and threats to supply chains and nuclear reactors and other services and systems in the city in the countries rather. Well, Russia has now a real good reason to launch cyber attacks on the United States, and cyber attacks are very very easy to do. In terms of nation states, they don't have to use conventional weapons. It's much cheaper, and you can pretty much do it with impunity. You pretty much don't get in trouble for cyber attacks because what happens is one country cyber attacks another. The other country just returns the favor with more cyber attacks, and it doesn't really turn into overt war. It's not a conventional war. Well, this is 100% fedup.com. U.S. Homeland Security Director warns of urgent cyber attack threat by Russia against power plants, banks, communications, GPS and navigation, and water treatment. Now, this is an interesting thing. Does Russia really want to go this far? Would this be enough to bring the United States into a conventional war with Russia? I believe at some point we get to the brink of all-out war and effectively World War III in the world. Is that going to happen now? Is that the result of this? I don't know. But I think prophetically, Bible prophecy seems to indicate that a world leader will come into the world at a time when we are in some sort of catastrophic emergency or collapse of the economy or on the brink of World War III. And it certainly seems like we are there. All the pieces of the puzzle are lined up. The economy is in shambles. Now we are on the brink of World War III, quite literally. China could move on Taiwan. And we have the situation where now cyber attacks could happen. And do you know what? We don't even have to go to war. If Russia does successful enough cyber attacks, it could take out our supply chains, our internet, our communication ability. Cell towers, for example, would be very easy to take out, especially if you involve electromagnetic pulse rather, and that could take out electronics. And certainly Russia has all the technology and ability to do that. There's even suggestions that there's submarines on the east coast in the Atlantic. So I don't know if that's true or not, but this is something we all should be prepared for. Will the grocery stores run out of food? Will the banks go down and have a bank holiday? Will all communications go down? Internet, cell phones, you will have no way to communicate. Will GPS navigation go down? Think of all the people that use that, truckers, fishermen, and of course, last but not least, the airlines. You take out GPS communication, all of a sudden the airlines uh, can't fly. That's their main mode of um, navigation. And in times of war, the United States military does control the GPS system, so they could shut it down if they think it's a threat. Water treatment facilities. Now, this is a nefarious one. Could they cause computer systems in water treatment to jam up? And think of the massive cities in North America that would have all sorts of trouble if water treatment facilities started failing. Biden responded to Russia's incursion in eastern Ukraine that is happening right now by placing sanctions on the country that would undoubtedly affect gas prices in the U.S. Biden billed this as a necessary sacrifice that Americans will have to make to stand up to Russia. Pretty lame stand, to be honest with you. This morning, Russia issued a warning after the United States imposed sanctions, warning that there will be a painful response. According to Latvian intelligence reports, Russia launched a nationwide cyber attack against Ukraine that has already staged hundreds of tanks and heavy artillery in eastern Ukraine. On the surface, and this gets back to what I was saying, sanctions seem like a safe response, but are they? Sanctions don't always have the intended consequence. Will pushing Putin back against the wall by issuing sanctions against Russia work, or will it invite further escalation, including retaliation? It appears as though the U.S. is preparing for the latter, as Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas is warning of the possibility of crippling cyber attacks on the United States of America, and I'll add by Canada. Canada is very, very loudly coming out against this. While Mayorkas is saying there is no specific threats, he is warning that we need to be prepared in the event of cyber attacks against our banks, bank holiday, communications, blackout, can't talk to anybody, power plants. There's a nuclear power plant near me, not near me, but I know where one is, and if there was any trouble there, certainly I would be affected by it. And water treatment facilities. That's a big deal. How many people don't have streams or freshwater wells, etc., who rely on city water? There would be mass panic, mass sickness and disease coming from that, and really anarchy as people were desperate for clean water. There would be a run on the grocery stores for bottled water. This is a big deal. This would be very, very easy for Russia to do. You know what? They don't even have to go to conventional war with the United States. All they have to do is wage a cyber war. And who do you think would last longer in a cyber war? Certainly, I think Russia would be in a much better position to kind of grind out a cyber war against North America. North America wouldn't stand for it. We wouldn't survive, a week without cell phones, internet. It would just bring us to our knees. Meanwhile, Russia could continue to do that. And, the citizens are poor already. Probably a lot of them don't even have internet anyways. So they would just keep on doing what they're doing. They know how to grow gardens because they're a lot of them are very poor in the country anyways. So it wouldn't really affect them. But, taking out technology in North America would be absolutely catastrophic. You wouldn't have to fire a weapon against North America, United States, Canada, or other Western countries. You just have to take out the technology that the whole society is run by and depends on. That's a big deal. Those are the two issues that I see today, the biggest of which is cyber attack, and that's always been the biggest threat. So this is something you need to be prepared for, recognize it's coming. When this happens, boy, there will be shock and awe, and you won't be able to go onto Facebook to find out how other people are dealing with it or what the situation is. You're going to be out of luck. Might be a good time to get into amateur radio. Not because you can use it legally for talking about these things right now, but in an emergency, anything goes effectively. If you're in an emergency, you can use amateur radio. And amateur radio will be one of the last lines of communication when everything goes dark. So you need to be prepared, folks. This is coming. I believe it gets much worse than this. Just prior to some world leader popping his head up out of the crowd on the worldwide stage and saying, "You know what? I've got the answer for this. If you simply worship me, pledge your allegiance, drop all your sovereign allegiances, your sovereign nation, your sovereign currencies, and accept my world currency, accept the world government, then we can make peace in the world and make everything awesome again." And that's what the Bible says effectively is going to happen in the last days. But it's got to get a lot worse before people get to that desperate point to accept a world leader. So is that coming this year? I think we're very, very close. And, none of us know the day or the hour, but it looks like things are winding down on the world stage in terms of end time Bible prophecy. I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.